Yes, sir. What's your name?
My name's Matt.
Hey, Matt.
Hello, nice to meet you.
You too.
So
Matthew, by the way, means gift from God. You know that?
You're welcome. So, my question is, you are of the conclusion that the statements of the Christian Bible is the true account of why we're here.
Sure.
Why should I believe that account as opposed to maybe like the book of the Latter-day Saints or the Quran?
Excellent question. That's a great question, because there's evidence that the New Testament accounts were written early by eyewitnesses, which contain embarrassing testimony they wouldn't have made up, which they died for, which also has extra biblical testimony from outside sources, which has Old Testament prophecy behind it, which has elaborate testimony that you couldn't explain unless they were eyewitnesses. In fact, your own Tim McGrew talks about that. It's called undesigned coincidences. There's archaeological evidence which backs it all up. Whereas if you look at the Quran, let's just take a look at the Quran. The Quran was written after Muhammad died. He died in 632 AD. It was standardized by the third Muslim caliph Uthman in 650 AD. And the Quran does not contain any miracles done by Muhammad. All the miracles attributed to Muhammad were attributed to him about 150 years or so later in the Hadith, the written traditions and sayings of what Muhammad said and did. So there are no eyewitness miracles of Muhammad. In fact, Muhammad denied doing miracles. Now, in the Quran, it says Jesus never died or rose from the dead. A substitute was put in its place. That's Surah 4, verse 157. This book is written over 600 years after the events. But you go back to the New Testament, and you've got 8 or 9 sources, depending upon who wrote the book of Hebrews, which has all of this evidence in it, which has been verified to be eyewitness testimony, and there's archaeological evidence behind it, that indicates that Jesus really did die and rise from the dead. Well, he certainly died. We know that. Even the great skeptic Bart Ehrman admits he died. There's no ancient historian who says that what the Quran says is true regarding Jesus. Even atheists admit Jesus died on the cross in 30 or 33 AD. So if you're going to look to a book to tell you what happened to Jesus, or you're going to look at a book that came 600 years after the events, or you're going to look at a collection of eyewitness documents written by contemporaries who were there, I'm going to go with the people who were there. Now, when you get to the Latter-day Saints, that's obviously even much further ahead. That's in the 1840s. And they're adding books to the Bible and saying that the Bible hasn't been translated right, or that it hasn't been copied right, or whatever. And the Mormon view, doesn't mean every Mormon believes this, but Mormons are polytheists. As man is, God once was. So they're adding a whole nother realm to the Christian worldview and actually going from theism to polytheism. And if you look for archaeological evidence for the Jews here in North America, or anything the Book of Mormon talks about, you will not find it. So that's why. And our book goes into great detail, by the way, Matthew. Here's a follow-up. Go ahead. You follow up. Yeah.
Well, I was just going to ask if you believe there are any prophets that would have come after John then, I believe? Or if it just kind of stopped.
I think the canon is closed since Revelation. I don't think there's more apostles that are getting new revelation now. I think that we have enough revelation there that keeps us busy, and we know enough about, what life's about, and when, and that Jesus is one day going to come back. We don't really need any more new revelation. I can't live up to what's already given. So.
All right, thank you.
All right, thanks, Matthew.
So I've been extremely interested in the subject of Jehovah's Witness and Mormons, and so this video was really interesting for me, and I really came at a good time. One of the big things I want to take away from this video, and we can actually relate it to Christian life, is the need to not be in an echo chamber. So often, Muslims or Jehovah's Witness or Mormons, they have very strong beliefs and they feel like they are just right. And all of a sudden, they are presented with evidence that just overwhelmingly annihilates their position. And then, either they retract back and they go harder and they just kind of deny, or they come to the truth. I mean, I was in the Middle East last year, and I got to meet several MBBs, or Muslim background believers, and it was incredible. One of the greatest trips of my life. Got to be in the intense Middle East. One of the things that I actually feel most Christians do wrong is we don't actually look at the evidence for ourselves. I know the word deconstruction has gotten a bad rap over the last couple years, and it's been touted as like the worst thing about Christianity that's happening to Christianity right now, and it's the most evil thing coming against the church. And whether or not maybe that's true or not, I think there's actually an aspect of deconstruction that we need to learn and kind of glean from. And part of it is the ability and the freedom to look at and dissect the things we believe. If the Mormon, Jehovah's Witness, or Muslim would do this, they would come to the truth a lot sooner. And there are many Christians who have these beliefs that they feel are just the bedrock of who they are, and they're just beyond truth. They are truth beyond truth. And if you press them on it, they all of a sudden begin to crumble, and they're like, well, I don't really have a good reason for believing this. It's just what I've always believed. And I'm just going to say, when we have a Christianity like that, where we believe things that we haven't actually wrestled through, and more than that, when we just put our heads in the sand and we say, I don't want to hear anything that the scientists have to say about evolution. It's just all wrong. We get upset with people who are conspiracy theorists about aliens, but we sound the same way. We sound like conspiracy theorists who just assume that everybody is wrong and out to get us. And even the Christian scientists who love God, they've been brainwashed, and we know better, even though we flunked our high school science class. We don't really even know much about science because Genesis says this, and I'm just using that as an example. But what I'm trying to say is, if we could actually press into truth, I think we'd be liberated. And I think here's the biggest thing most people are wrestling with. I think most people are afraid. Most people are afraid. They're afraid of two things. Number one, they're afraid if they actually ask the question, they look deep into some of those beliefs and the evidence and the scientific findings, they're afraid they're going to be found out and that their faith was a fraud. And for that person, let me just tell you, if God is real, then no matter what happens, he will be proven over and over and over again. It's actually a lack of faith when someone doesn't look at the evidence. The second thing is, I think oftentimes we are afraid that if we give them an inch, they're going to take a mile. If we say that the earth maybe wasn't just created in 6 days, maybe the universe was created in millions of years or whatever, that all of a sudden now Jesus isn't real. And if we give them an inch, they're going to take a mile. And we don't really want to die on the hill of young earth or old earth, but we have to put a stance here because they're going to take. And I just think that's a intellectually dishonest viewpoint. And so I'm not petitioning that you come to my side or someone else's side. What I am petitioning for is that you approach your faith with boldness. You approach your faith knowing that God is real, that Jesus Christ lives within you, and so you can look at anything you want to, scientific, or look at the evidence, and you can be assured, maybe not your belief in that, but that you will not be moved. And listen, let God be true and every man be a liar. They may take an inch, but they're not going to take the whole mile because God is real. Jesus is alive and he is moving in his church. Thank you guys. There's more videos right here if you want to watch them. Thank you guys. If you like this one, subscribe, share it with somebody you need to share it with. We'll be coming out with some more videos pretty soon about deconstruction and my opinion on that and how to do it in a healthy way. Peace.